Welcome to the established 1875 podcast with me, Luke, and today's special guest, Cody Bennett. Hello and welcome back to the established 1875 podcast with me, Luke, and I'm joined by Cody today. How are you, Cody?
Not too bad, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So we have a lot of news to catch up on, and sadly we don't have any special guests this week. And I'm not joined by Matt. Matt can't be here. He's been working very hard this week, so unfortunately can't be on. But I want to firstly get into potential transfers. So I've seen about Danny Bath knocking about, and uh, we maybe I've heard about a young lad from the Premier League. No names have been there, but apparently there's a link. So hopefully it's an attacker. Hopefully it's somebody who can score goals, but we'll have to see. But I want to know your opinions on Danny Bath. Are we getting anything from it, or is it a bit of a weird one when we're letting Ayala go, same age?
I mean, I can see it be depend on the fee. Like if it's too high, I feel like it's not the best of signings. Whereas if it's on a free or sort of like low 100k sort of thing, then I think it'd be a smart signing because obviously you got the player season at Sunderland, you got in the playoffs, so he can't be that bad. All the fans think he's good.
So it's knocking about that it is going to be a free if it's going to happen. He's got 1 year remaining on his contract. Looking like Sunderland don't want to renew that. Maybe age, maybe wages, who knows? But can we offer him like a decent contract without the wage being too high? Because obviously the main reason we got rid of Iola was probably wages and maybe the injuries. But I'd say mainly wages, especially when he wanted to stay at the club.
I mean, it sort of depends as well because obviously we want to keep the age sort of the same. Where if he can stay fit, it depends on how much he can play. Like because Hyman Carter, then solid really. Whereas if you bring us on like Bath, whatever you say his name, like if he stays fit, like will we switch to like a back five or back three sort of thing?
Do
So
you
it
think
also
yeah, you think it's going to throw a spanner? You're going to think that maybe you got Ash Phillips, you got
sort
Sam
of,
Watts, younger lads, maybe should get the chance maybe over an older guy. Is this what you're trying to say?
yeah, and like sort of if we do go to like a back five or back three,
Yeah.
that we can see Bath play more, and then where if we stick to the like four at the back, then I can see him just sort of coming in every now and then, like an Ayala sort of thing.
Well, I think you have to look at it and say like we've played what we played. Can we say four preseason games? Two at Stanley. We played two away in Austria. We've had what we've probably seen two different back lines. So we've had the pairing of Hyam and Carter again, and we've had yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
Hyam,
and
Hyam and Phillips on that line. But anyway, we want to look at that probably the second game more than the first game at Accrington. We had I think the standout one again, it doesn't feel right saying it, but making mistakes was probably Scott Wharton. But the problem with that is he's also unbelievable going forward. He got near enough an assist. He was in that build up for that first goal. So you can't knock him attacking, but defensively he's just not in there. And
he fits into our play more,
yeah,
like the ball player centre back we want.
I just I don't know what's happened with him since he got injured, since that concussion. I said this on the first episode of this podcast. I said since that concussion, he's not been the same, and maybe it's a loan move. Maybe his future isn't at Rovers, and it's hard to say. But obviously, if it's time for him to move on, it's time to move on. And if we need to generate that money, like a lot of speculation in the news, then maybe it is time for him to leave. But then again, we are also looking at some loans. We'll move on to the loan market now. I've heard about a young lad maybe coming from the Premier League. Hopefully, it's an attacker. I don't know any names. All I'm saying is that we have got a young lad ready to come in from the Premier League. And I've heard you saying to me before about some lad from Liverpool. I haven't really heard much about him. So if you want to explain if you think that he'd be a good signing or not.
I mean, like I haven't seen much from him because he's obviously the academy and stuff, but he's got minutes in Scottish football and the first team at Liverpool. He's young, Harvey Elliott player. It's Ben Doak from Liverpool. I think he's like 17 or something,
Yeah.
but apparently he's like a quality player sort of thing.
Around the age,
People are, people are
around
saying
Harvey
he's
Elliott.
sort of people are saying he could be like the next
Yeah.
sort of next step up from Harvey Elliott sort of
That's
thing.
brilliant. We'll have to see. Is if he can generate their goals, if he can help us on our journey, maybe it's something worth looking into, especially if Liverpool are looking to give him some more first team action, which you'd expect him to maybe do. Um, Yeah, I think a lot with the transfer. It's been quite slow recently. I don't think
Been quite this week.
it's been it's not
Yeah.
nice. Like for fans, we like the rumours, but equally, do you know what to say? If it's all quiet, expect a storm to come up. But again, we've been away in Austria this week, so we've travelled to Austria. Some hard work been going on in pre-season. JDT's had them training hard, I believe, out there. It's good for team bonding.
The heat there as well.
Yeah, the heat's been about 35. Yeah, it's been touching high. And I think if you have to think about it, we played 2 games over there. We won the first one 6-0, second one 4-1. Apparently, the first team we played against was the weaker side for the Hofburg, whatever they're called, Horsenberg, whatever they're called, can't pronounce it. That was their weaker side. And JRC scoring a hat trick, Travis going for 45 yards. So, what are your thoughts with Lewis Travis? Will he stay? Will he go?
I mean, I guess it's up to him at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because I think JC will keep him because obviously, he's the captain.
Yeah.
You don't normally ship out your captain unless you've fallen out or, he says he wants to play, move on sort of thing. Whereas if it's someone like Millwall, I can't see him leaving because it'd be a side up really.
Yeah.
Same league, we finish around the same position every season as them. Whereas if it's someone like, I'm not saying there isn't any, or but if it's someone like Luton, for example, I can see that happening because Premier League football, more money, play against the bigger team. Whereas, so I can see him staying as long as no high teams come in for him.
I would agree with that. I think we had an insulting offer from Millwall. We have touched on this before, but I just want to see where everybody's at with this. And with Travis, obviously, he didn't fly out until Tuesday, I believe. He came quite late, but there was obviously something to do with family issues, which happened just before the Accrington game because he wasn't involved in the game at Accrington. But that's literally, I don't think there's nothing more to it. I don't think we have to worry about there being any transfer going in the background.
Unless Mill come with like an insane offer sort of thing,
I just don't think teams in this league have that sort of money that we're asking for. I mean, we're not asking for too much. We're asking for about 2 million, I believe, and I don't think that's too much to ask for. But again, I don't think we should let him go to opposition in this league. I think
and it's a playoff rival as well, really.
Yeah, massively, yeah. I mean, we beat him on the last game of the season 4-3 and ended their playoff hopes. So why would we want to fuel their ammunition for the new season? It comes back to this Luton talent. Luton are in for 2 of our players, but they don't want to bid what we want for them players. So for them, should they move on? Because I don't see many things about them wanting Kaminsky recently, but I also haven't seen any news about them going in for any other goalkeepers. So are they playing it smart or are they being a bit slow here?
So I reckon because sort of as the window goes on, sort of deadline day sort of thing, clubs normally seem to offer their Arsenal players because they might ship them out. So I can see Luton doing something like that, sort of waiting towards the end of the window to see if we lower the price for Kaminsky, which I don't think we will because I reckon it'd be our number one.
Yeah.
Until or unless he goes, he's just a better shot stopper, really.
He's played in both pre-season games now, so he's played a good 60 minutes at Accrington, and he's played away in one of these teams in Austria. He seems happy. It looks like he's going to go into the season being number one again. Looks like Ainsley's going to take that seat on the bench again, which is we're all fine with that. I think you have to realise with Ainsley, he's a really good goalkeeper, really good backup option, but it's
still young.
He's good with his feet. He's young, but he's maybe not ready for that first team football. It's maybe a bit too much pressure for him, and I think it would be good for him to just have that time just to relax again. Because I think towards the end of the season, I think you see getting a bit more agitated, a bit more worried, like I'm the main man here. Because Kaminsky was sat on the bench and he's probably thinking, right, well, I need to keep my game at this standard. I can't let it slip down here. And I think sometimes indecisive, but with Thomas, he was injured when he was making his mistakes. So I can back him to be.
Because the thing with Kaminsky, he's not a championship level goalie.
No, he's higher.
You can see that. Ben Long, we signed him from Genk.
Yeah.
One of the two, But they were playing European League football every season. They were top like 4 in the Belgian league. So you can clearly see he's not the championship level. He's at level above, really.
Yeah, well, I think we signed him for about 300, 500k, something small. It was a massive fee. It was a bargain. And at the end of the day, we're looking to make a profit on him. He's getting older, He's probably coming to the peak of his powers. Goalkeepers always get better as they get older with age. So hopefully we keep hold of Ainsley as he get older, he matures more. And as a goalkeeper, you always become better as you get older. You have that, you can read the game better, and that's just as it goes. But hopefully, Thomas stays for this season to help us fuel our push for
I
promotion.
can see him staying because it's not as if he hates it here or
Oh, he loves it. He really
the
does.
fans will love him as well.
I think his fan was all settled. So, but there again, we never know what's going on behind closed doors.
There was also early in the window, there was that thing about that Brighton youngster, Moran. I've seen some more things that Stoke are leading for him. So
yeah, well, I think that link to Stoke,
he was probably one of the ones we were linked with.
I'll be honest, that link to Stoke, I actually, if somebody made a really good point on social media, on Twitter, I can't remember that, or else I would give you a shout out. I promise I would. But I saw somebody mention, like, look, this lad has played, I think it was one senior game. He's not got no experience, and we're bringing him into the thick of it in the championship. Would that be the right move? And I think that's maybe why we step back. We might be looking and going, we need somebody who's a bit more experienced, maybe your Tom Cannons and, players like that. Because there was rumours of Tom Cannon being switched around and water, and we all thought it was like, it's crap, basically. But we never know, and we're just going to have to see and wait till the end of the window to find out if that's true, if it's not true. And that's football. Hello, and we're back for the second part of the podcast. I'm still joined by Cody. Matt can't be here today. And if you can't tell from the first part of this podcast, I am recording on a potato today, mainly because I couldn't figure out how to record from my phone.
Blame Matt for that one.
Yeah, we'll blame Matt. Matt's at work. Little twat, he's done me in. Right. Anyway, we'll move on swiftly. So the main reason this podcast is a little bit later than normal is because there's been more news. So the first part of this podcast was meant to be the podcast that goes out and you get to see it. But unfortunately, we've had some news we don't know if to believe. We don't know what's going on because we've got a source tonight and it's not a good way to start a week, if we're being quite frank. The Mirror Football has come out and is basically claiming JDT is wanting to leave the club again and is, in their words, red-faced. He's not happy. He's frustrated. It's looking like Venky's have slashed our budget by 20% and have frozen all incomings due to a tax rule in India, which still doesn't come into place until October, which is worrying. What do you think, Cody?
The thing is with that, I think they would have told JT before the window, sort of thing. So he sort of knows it's going to happen. It would be a short budget. Whereas if they've only just told him now, halfway through the window, then it's completely their own fault. They've done us over there.
Well, I don't know. Like the thing that's come out is it's saying that it's recent. It's quite a new thing because the Venky's have just allotted another 20 million into the club only a few weeks back. So it's a bit of a strange one to come out now that they're saying the budget's going to get slashed by 20%. So whatever we had, they're taking 20% of that away, and we're not bringing any more players in until they say yes, which is a worrying thing here.
It also depends though, because sort of like, again, with the Gallagher and Diaz sort of thing, in those windows, you would expect us to have the 5 mil for Gallagher, the 7 mil for Brereton, So it's just those, make sure we spend like the marquee players properly.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Well, I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? You're going to look back on it and we've sold Armstrong for 20 million. Okay, we've had that money. We're probably using it. We don't know. We don't have a clue what's going on that money. A bit of that money went to Newcastle, obviously, because they had a sell-on clause. And you have to look at Brereton. This is a big one. £7 million you spent for a young lad over 3 or 4 years ago before he's reached his peak. You've had so much time to give that lad a new contract before he's reached the peak of his powers, and you haven't trusted enough that he's going to reach the peak of the powers. I'm not saying that anybody saw this rebirth of this Chilean star, but all I am saying is that you've had all that time to renew that contract to make the money. We should not have been in a position
as late as you possibly can.
We should not be in a position this summer where we've had to let him go for free. He's now joined Villarreal on a free. They have got a bargain of the century.
But you've also got to look at the other ones like Lenahan, Rothwell, Nambe, so on.
There's so many. That final season with Tony Mowbray is where it went to shit, and that's not Mowbray's fault. I'm not saying it's Mowbray's fault. They all saw in January when they were offered contracts. The only thing they saw was our manager is leaving at the end of the season. They don't know what's happening to the club. They don't know who they're going to bring in. Is it going to be Michael Appleton? Is it going to be, I don't know, Sariga Vreeman of the Women's World Cup team? Whatever, you don't know who it's going to be. And that for them, for their careers, is damaging. If you bring in somebody like Michael Appleton, that you go in League One, you bring in Sariga Vreeman, your first bloody women's manager ever, you might be going up here, you might be going down. You don't have a clue what's going on. It's a really bad example, Serena Wiegman, but it's the only name that came to my head.
I think we took a risk with JET, and I think as long as he stays, it's worked out perfectly fine. It's a massive risk,
I think we're overlooking this. Like, the contract thing. It's mind-boggling me. It's probably the first time I've ever spoke about it properly. And it's like I said, it's the Lenihan. Lenihan for me was probably worth about 5 or 6 million, and Middlesbrough would have paid it. Chris Wilder had been after Darragh Lenihan since Sheffield United. He has been there. He wanted him for at least 3 or 4 years previous, but never acted on it. So the minute he went to Middlesbrough and the links started coming, you knew that he needs to build a new team at Middlesbrough. He wants, you should know from that point on that player needs to be sold. And it does my head in, and it's mad. It's not a nice thing to be speaking about losing out on money.
Rothwell as
We're
well.
robbing ourselves, aren't we? We are robbing ourselves with the Rothwell thing. I know I'm not letting you speak, Cody.
We could have got like 2-3 mil.
Yeah, the thing is with Rothwell is I don't want to blame the owners. All they had in mind in that transfer window back in January was get this club back to the Premier League. I remember an article that came out saying, "Oh, we'll give all of you an extra 10 million if you get us promoted. You'll get an extra million or 10 million if we get promoted. You can all have that bonus. Enjoy your summer. Have a good time." Joe Rothwell, 3 weeks before the links to Bournemouth, was saying how much he loved the club. It's the best form of
and fight.
it. Yeah, perfect. Unbelievable. Player reborn. 3 weeks later, about a week before the end of the transfer window, Bournemouth interested in Joe Rothwell. Joe Rothwell pushing for the way out. He joins on a free. He could have signed a year extension, and I know people out there might be thinking you're being silly. He could have signed a year extension if he really loved this club so much. Signed a year extension. Bournemouth were going to buy you anyway, and give the club some money back.
You could have said that about anyone though. Sort of like Lenihan, he's the captain here.
Yeah.
And he's left on a free.
I don't really have any hard feelings for Lenihan. My hard feelings really, I'll be honest, were Rothwell more than anybody or Rothwell. I think he
because of what he was saying and stuff like that.
I really do think he damaged the club that season, and there's probably people out there thinking this kid needs to shut up. But I'm being honest, I thought he damaged that season.
Just like the whole locker room and everything, though, isn't it?
Before that,
one bad hit and it's over.
Before that came out, Joe Rothwell looked so happy. The team looked so happy. You came out that game after all of these reports were going out and we weren't signing a new contract. He wants to leave. You could see heads went down. And I'm not even just saying that. Heads went down. And you could see that in the performances because we never matched that first half of the season or the second half of the season. The manager was leaving and, all this stuff. But now JDT has been promised from the minute he came in. He's been promised backing from the owners. And I'm not going to lie, he probably did. He got it. He did get it. He has had it, because he's putting Callum Britton, Sammy Smodic, Dorian Hyam. We've spent a fair bit of money, right? But what's annoying me is that this can't come at a worse time for us. We've just had a highest league position. We've got to the quarterfinals of an FA Cup. We're so happy as a fan base. I don't think there's many people out there.
Even the players are happy. They're really all of them.
Everybody's happy, and I think it's just damaging now. Why now? Everybody's happy. There's nothing between the owners and the fans. If anything, it was between the fans and Steve Waggett. There was no animosity. There's nothing. Everybody seems in a good place, and now we're back to square one. It feels like we're back to square one. It feels like we're going to get an Owen Coyle situation again, where we're going to go back down to League One, and that's how it feels, and we can't help hiding our emotions. I think a lot of people are worried, especially when the only comment we've seen from the club so far has come from Elliot Jackson saying the club reiterates a point that John Dahl Thomason is under contract till 2025. Right, you're not telling me if the owners are taking 20% of my budget away. I want to know this. We're fans. We demand to know this. We need to know.
But it also depends on how much we had at the start of the window and if we're going to need to properly sell players to bring in budget, or if we've got a budget already.
I think it was made clear by Greg Broad from the start of the window, weren't it, that we needed we needed to sell players. We needed to offload. So it was looking like we were looking to sell some players in summer. So Teo Edden's one of them names there. Obviously, Kaminsky and Travis have popped up onto that list now. Obviously, that's mainly because they're probably higher wage players. People might want them. So they're attracting attention and that's it. But it's that thing that you said you're looking at the free agents in the loan market, and we've got what free agents basically. We haven't spent a dime yet, which is magic. Love that. In fact, we've got 4 free agents. We have to remember the young lad who's come from Tottenham. So you have to remember that. But equally, it's worrying when you're freezing all transactions, all loans, all free agents, all permanent signings. If the budget was low, right, what's changed from now, from the start of the window to now, where you have to freeze all the signings? We've got 2 players waiting to come in, apparently. I'm guessing one's Danny Bath and one's meant to be that player from the Premier League who's coming on loan. So why freeze it if we're in the same situation?
But the thing is with that is also, do you reckon we're freezing it because of the pre-season stuff? Like, they're not back from pre-season.
Well,
I was talking to a Sunderland fan earlier, just, asking about when they get back from their pre-season stuff. He said their last game's on the 22nd. So that's in next week.
Yeah.
So that's might be why Bath's pause sort of thing. That's really completely done. But we went for him to get back from America with Sunderland.
I think
that lonely sort of thing, he might be on pre-season with whatever club he's at as well.
I'm not too sure if Danny Bath is actually gone to America with them. I did see.
I think he has, because I have seen. I think he'd played a game.
I'm just not sold on it really. Like it's like they've said, just don't look for any more players. We don't want you to get any more players, but it's just a bit concerning. And I can understand where you're coming from, but it's just a really weird one. You know what I mean? It's a really strange one, and I think the fans have a right to be worried. And I think there will be fans demanding for answers, but I don't think we need to be hasty and blaming the owners as such. I know they're in charge of the budgeting and stuff like that, but it's the Indian government that have imposed this. It's not coming in until October. Which my question would be, why are they cutting the budget now? Why are we not allowed to sign players? That's where my question would be. And the other thing that worries me is probably the thing they're saying they're gonna fire sell. So they're looking to get rid of as many players as they can to generate more funds, which doesn't seem right if they want to push and be a Premier League club. So you just really don't want animosity back. We've just got that team feeling back. Like last week we speaking to Elliot Bennett, he helped rebuild our trust in the club, and we just don't want that to break back down again with JDT leaving. The minute he walks out that door, if he walks out the door, who knows what's going to happen, because we can't tell the future. But if he walks out that door, the backlash would be unbelievable. And the person that we're going to would not be Steve Waggett, it won't be Greg Broughton. We're going right to the very top, because this is where this report is coming from, and it's saying it's the owners and nobody else.
The thing with this report is it was saying JDT said he wanted 3 players in this window, which we've got, and they were saying about the 2 more that's coming in. So that sort of makes you think, like, so why they bring up he wants 3 players and 2 more if that's what we've already got?
Well, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but after JDT's interview at Accrington Stanley, he told the local press that he had 3 players in. He's happy with the 3 players he's got, but he wants 4 more, and one of them needs to be a goal scorer. So he's been hinting since last season, I think, that he needed more money to get a striker and stuff like that. But it's okay hinting, but he's having to talk to the owners, and he's obviously talked to the owners, and they'll know his feelings. We just need to, it's just worrying. I'm worried. You're probably worried. A lot of people out there are worried, and it's just, we probably need to see what the club has to say about it. And I think with a statement that important that's come out, sorry, Cody, I think that's come out that important, you probably do need to address it. And I know we don't like addressing statements, but that needs addressing.
Well, 2 things, actually, yeah. I think the owners should be coming out with a statement saying what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And second of all, if JT does go, what managers actually are there? Like, there's plenty of out there.
Yeah.
But who would come to us? They find out we've got practically no budget. So that would be an instant no, really, apart from the ones coming from lower league.
The thing is with that is you're going to go back around in that circle of getting managers in on the cheap, and it's going to be the cheapest one comes in, and that is the reality of it. I heard somebody speaking to me earlier. I was speaking to a Middlesbrough fan. they said they see Chris Wilder coming in and people like that. And listen, Chris Wilder hasn't done nothing since he's left Sheffield United. He'll be on a big wage and he'll want money to come here to do work with. He won't work with nothing. Chris Wilder, and it feels weird to be putting this out on a podcast about Rovers, but I heard Chris Wilder's a bit of a bully and he won't, he doesn't care about the youth. He wants, this is what I've heard. It's what I'm hearing. I'm not trying to slag him off. I'm just saying, well, do we want that around the club? Or we're trying to build futures for the youth? It's a weird one.
And we use our youth academy as like our main source, really. You got Leonard come through. You got all these prospects like Glozman, all these players,
like
Batty,
yeah,
you can see them every season. They all get minutes,
Listen, yeah, it's a strange one, but at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to live in hope and just hope that everything is going okay in the background, and it's just, as some people will claim, a slow news day, and I hope it is a slow news day. I really do, but
I think we all do. I think that's what we're all hoping.
I think when we all first read it, obviously we get a bit worried, like, oh no, sugar like shit, what's going on? But then when you're obviously Rich Sharp couldn't have left the worst time. We would all be crying back to Rich now and saying, please tell us what's going on. He's got the inside the club. And Elliot is a good little journalist, but he's getting there. He'll probably become the peak one now, obviously, for a while until the Lancashire Telegraph get there, because he's well known now at the club. So hopefully Elliot can get us some news soon, but it's just a bit worrying when the only thing he can put out is JDC's contract until 2025, and that's all we can really say at the minute.
But the thing is, as well with that, is the report came out 7 p.m. sort of thing, and the club probably aren't back in Austria yet, so you can't go and ask. You can't go into the ground and ask them.
He came back yesterday, but I don't think the people, the person he'll log on to is probably your Steve Waggetts and the more higher up executives who will be in office, hopefully. I'd hope so, but after that Birmingham game back in January, I don't have a fucking clue. Listen, Cody, I love to go on, but we don't have the money for premium Zoom. So I would like to thank you for being a guest today. I would like to thank everybody for listening. And I would also like to thank Matt for leaving me with his task. And I think I did okay, mate. So I'm not too sure. We'll see. But yeah, just let us know what you think.
I'll blame Rich Sharp for this. If he stayed, it'd have been all fine.
Yeah, right. So mate, Richie, lad, you need to tell us what's going on. Just one more week.
His fault for leaving us.
Hopefully, we have news on another guest coming on soon, very soon. But for now, it's been a pleasure, Cody.
Would you ever want me back on?
Well, we'll see. We'll get you back on at one point. And thank you for everybody for listening. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Established 1875 podcast. Thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like. And we'll see you all for the next episode of the Established 1875 podcast very soon.